Hello there. This is the second live email of the post era by me, Alex Treat. And no, I'm not speaking in this manner for mere comedic reason, but rather I'm speaking this manner because otherwise the voice of text translator cannot understand me. And unlike what has been implied in my last live to email text to speech, or the reverse way around, speech to text translator did not do a good job of translating my text. Thus it's surprisingly hard for me to keep this voice going, and I'm going to try and renew it at this point. And here we go. I'm not going to speak like this the rest of the time. Anyway, it's good to hear from you all. Oh gosh, this is going to kill me. Anyway, yes, it's going to be attempted. The intention is to sound like one of those narrator people where I change my voice's inflection seemingly randomly and apparently go down after each sentence. It's incredibly irritating. So, yep, I'm just not doing it in the re-recording. All right, after the last left email, I read some of the Summa Theologia, which has overall been a fantastic experience. I must say that reading the Summa every morning has been great, like really good. I learned a lot thus far, and I'm really glad that I get to start my morning off in the manner every time. Thereafter, I made a summary page of notes about what good in the ethical sense is, and it was cool. It's actually hard for me to slow myself down and just talk where I pronounce every word clearly. I'm actually going to die this email. Okay, I went and gave plasma at CSL Plasma, which was tolerable as an experience, as you might expect after I spent the next few hours correcting my last live email. It was absolutely tedious to do voice typing. See, I can type fairly quickly, especially given the experience I've gained writing so many live emails, but it's actually harder to correct errors in a document than simply type what you're going to say. It probably took me longer to correct the previous document than it would just type in the first place. However, I will say the whole experience did teach me just how hard it is to understand me at certain points in time, because clearly if the speech-to-text translator is any indication of my ability to enunciate clearly, I fail utterly. Actually, so bad. So I might as well slow my speech down and speak each word more clearly in the future. I'm not sure. Anyway, after this live email correcting process, I decided that my current method, if not voice typed, is extremely untenable because it's the case that I write about half as much as a normal live email each week, just for 1 week. Therefore, I need to, keep this mode of speaking, or else I'll lapse in my typical way of speaking. All right, moving on. Anyway, it was the worst. Therefore, we're trying this odd but effective method of speaking. I bladed with Grace around, well, I guess not around, down to downtown Fort Collins, and we did baby-vandalism and stuck anime stickers on various things. All public property, with a few exceptions, but that's not my fault. I regret this decision now, as I realize the penalty for baby-vandalism is extremely high, and if I'm unwilling to do such trivial things as trespass, despite the fact that it's unlikely I'll receive the penalty, then I should also not do vandalism, even if it's trivially outlawed, just to put stickers on things. Anyway, the point is, I repent, and I will not do it again. But in the time which I did it, I had a good time. After that, Grace and I got boba, and we watched a Ghibli film called Princess Mononoke, and it was garbage, like actual garbage. I think the animators in that movie were just like, what would happen if we, animated things? We'd like a guy to shoot an arrow. So what if the arrow cuts off the dude's entire head and 2 hands while still holding onto his sword? Yes, we'd like to see that. Would you like to see a really big, ugly forest god get killed by its head being chopped off, only becomes extremely slimy and then suck in the life of the forest, and then suck in the life of all kinds of innocent bystanders for no reason, despite the fact that it's supposed to be a benevolent god? Yes, we'd like to see that as well. So yeah, the movie had a very little plot, and while it was animated well for the time period in which it was produced, it was actually just garbage, as everything else goes. Therefore, it was gross. However, it was very fun to mock it, and that's an appealing trait in bad movies. And so it was still an enjoyable watch experience with Grace. I then went on a drive with Grace and got home to find the government give me $750 for free, which was spectacular. So that aided my financial pinch that I'd been in previously, and now I'm not dying. After that, I spent a few hours working on discovering and providing links to every peer-reviewed paper I've read this far. It was a sizable number, though I'm sure I've missed a few of the peer-reviewed papers. And then finally, I responded to Majesty of Reason because he and me are talking, and I read a paper he told me to read, and it was fine. I still like reading a philosophy paper. Oh, but it felt like reading a philosophy paper, aka being boring, tedious, and harsh. But after responding to Majesty of Reason, I then went to bed. The next day I went on a run, and it was super slow, and it was quite painful, and I don't know exactly why those things coincided, but they did. Therefore, I had a quiet time. Thereafter, I had a quiet time as per my morning routine. Bought some magic sleeves and a deck box for my ultimate magic deck, which I will proceed to work on. I will say now that my ultimate magic deck has finally arrived in the mail, and it lives with my hopes and dreams in quite a few respects. It's been quite nasty to have people play against, so it's pretty fun to play, I must admit. So hopefully no one develops some anti-Alex deck. But at this point in time, it deals with most decks pretty well, unless severely mana-starved or killed in 1 turn. Or 4. Anyway, after working on my ultimate magic deck, I then read a amount of my Christian metaphysic book that Alan and Matt, as well as myself, have been studying over the ages. I took a break from studying during my trip. So I got back into that, and we've once again reinitiated the book study, which is great, and I do enjoy this. After I went to Joe's, played Magic just like the good old days, and it was a very good time. However, my blue deck got crushed by his Smithy's deck. It was a very effective deck against my blue, which is surprising, given my blue is effective against everything. Except apparently that. So yeah, did that. I then stayed around for tacos because Tuesday is the new Monday, and we played some Brawlhalla, for those of you that do not know the lingo of the Animen, Mind Men, Brawl Boys, whatever you want to call us. And thereafter, we did some more Magic games, and finally went over to CSU to play a CSU game without Joe and Karina because they did not want to attend. And that was a really good time. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Me and Caleb caught Noah and Ben quite quickly, but Ben just started sending us like the most obscure pictures. And while I'm not quite good at recognizing every place in CSU, I'm quite good at recognizing most every place in CSU. I do not know the fauna, nor do you. You should not expect me to know a parking sign. It says no parking sign, like with no other background context. You know how many of those are spread throughout campus? I think it was Ben just a bit salty that we caught them so fast the first time, so he gave us garbage pictures. Anyway, we did not catch them the final round, but it was still a good time. The next day I woke up, I tried to donate plasma to CSL, but unfortunately they were like, there's a certain test we have to run on your plasma, make sure you aren't giving diseases to people that we're trying to save with their lives. And until that test returns, we cannot allow you to donate plasma. And I was like, sad, but also kind of happy because I didn't have to donate plasma. But, you know, and since my financial situation is not as destitute, being poked in the needles is not my favorite thing. So yeah, I was only 72% sad. Thereafter, I spent quite a lot of time building a token deck for Magic, which has turned out to work pretty well. I then played some games with Joe as he came over to my house, and we got to fight, and it was fun. My car broke down, but, you know, in the most trivial manner, thus far experienced, and it's just a taillight that won't turn off. Apparently, there's like a switch in the brake pedal. There's a little rubber bit that the switch, like, busted for some reason. I actually don't know why. But, yeah, it's dead, and so I got to go get a replacement little rubber bit and get my car fixed. So, as far as fixing my car goes, though, this is definitely by far the best and my favorite repair. After that, I then talked with Majesty of Reason more, and we watched some more of his videos, and finally went on a run that night. The next day I slept in, did my classic morning things. I went over to play Magic with Nia, which was very fun. I then hung with Alan and caught up on his life originally before going to CSU to use the whiteboards, and whiteboard fight about Catholicism, and particularly Nemesh's understandings of, wait for it, it's called. He uses sense data. Phenomenologist approach to Protestantism. So yeah, that was good. I very much enjoyed that, and me and Alan, I think, made some good progress. The next day I woke up, did quiet time, and made another Magic deck, but I made this deck purely based on flavor text instead of card stats, which means it objectively sucks. But hopefully it's the case that'll be quite funny. We'll have to see eventually. But yeah, that was a tedious endeavor because I had to look through like every one of my Magic cards in their entirety, and that was a lot of work. After that, I got groceries and attended the Minecraft night for Ratio Christie. Air quotes, because it's not really Ratio Christie, it's just the Ratio Christie friend group. But anyway, did that, and that was good. Got to catch up with a lot of people and work on my Minecraft castle, which I have a really weird but very strong attachment to. So yeah, I enjoyed that quite a bit. And then, after that, once Katie and Noah left, me and Liam stuck around to do an anime quiz, and it was pretty close, but Liam did win by a non-negotiable margin. But I do think I'm going to beat him pretty soon, or so I hope. After that, I went on a run and decided to have a mom accompany me on her bike, so she talked to me as I ran, and originally I responded, and then by the end I just gasped. So yeah, it was really good, though. Just, I don't know, I surprisingly enjoyed it. After that, Mom and I were going to start watching Hayuku, or whatever the viable name is pronounced like, but it was available on Crunchyroll, so we started watching Yuri on Ice instead, which is actually pretty, well made this far. Yeah, so I'm on episode 1 of Yuri on Ice with Mom, and I think we'll watch it, and we'll see if she accompanies me on any more late night runs. The next day I woke up, went to Southgate, barring quiet time for church days. I have historically not been, doing quiet time days, which is bad. I gave a mini speech as well as the rest of the squad gave a mini speech, and then I went to Empower, which is a freshman free tutoring thing that I signed up for as part of the CSU stuff. So yeah, I signed up to be part of that because of the benefits, and it means I get a really nice North Face backpack. So the benefits are real, but the other benefits were all like 18, so I felt very old amongst them. It was kind of awkward for me, not gonna lie. I did, however, get free food, and that was, pretty darn good. So it may have been worth it. Who knows? After that, I went over to Neo and Sydney's house for the typical Bible study occurrence. However, Bible study did not happen because Neo and Braden were debating politics, and that was quite a lengthy endeavor. Therefore, instead, I decided to exercise virtue, as you know. The virtue has been instilled with my bones, and I did dishes for approximately an hour, and then I talked with Sydney, catching up on what's been happening in her life. And that was really good. Once Braden and Maddie left, we, meaning me, Sydney, and Alan, went over to Alan's house. I said Alan. Me, Sydney, and Neo went over to Alan's house, and we decided to watch How to Train Your Dragon number 3, because it's apparently the case that Alan thinks that it has good Christian values, as well as a solid plot. And upon watching it again, I don't know if I can say yes to the good Christian values, because it's just like every other movie as far as I perceive it. But I can definitely say it has a decent plot, even if you don't think it's like God tier, I think that was around 7. It was around a 7 as far as the plot goes. And, overall, good movie. Yes, we did that, and then because of our reasonable sleep schedules, we decided to go home and to bed thereafter. So we did that. The next day I went to Neo's, watched Clone Wars episode, and then began philosophizing. Upon returning from the trip, I realized that certain persons I could teach valid philosophy to had not previously been chosen to do so because I didn't do it because of the immense amount of work and frankly the tedium it requires. But because Alex 2.0 is a generous person, desires to better the world, he has stooped, and by stooped I mean not stooped because stoop sounds like It's derogatory. He has chosen to help those who are willing to listen to him to become more knowledgeable in the areas they desire to become more knowledgeable about. As a result, I have begun to train Neo in metaphysics from the very ground up, and so far I've enjoyed it quite a bit. It's slow and tedious and a lot of work, like I anticipated, but I think it's worth it. And hopefully we will have the most fundamental, false, the most thorough disciplining experience out of my disciples thus far. So yes, it was good. After I played Magic with Joe and Neo, and Joe got to play his brand new Salamander deck, whose purpose was hypothetically to do group hug things, but he can definitely make it very not group huggy when he wants it to. It just makes a lot of salamanders. Thereafter, I played Ultimate Frisbee with the old hiking group that I used to hike with way back when, and I can thank Ben for actually doing that, because I would have forgotten if I hadn't been prompted by him to actually go play. And it was really fun. I underestimate how much I enjoy Ultimate Frisbee. However, the tail end was full of cramps for me, and because I did a lot of strenuous sprinting, and apparently that's a new thing for my body now. Cramping after strenuous sprinting. So it was unpleasant, but, otherwise the time was actually fantastic. And then finally, once I got home, I spent the next 2 or 3 hours watching Majesty of Reason videos and writing down notes and trying to think of responses. Finally, as for yesterday, I did quiet time as per usual. Went to Neo's house, and then we did the library philosophy false. Library philosophy session once more, and that went well. He's learning quite quickly. He's an apt pupil. Then we hung out a little bit, I think. Oh, no, actually, I went home, and he had to go do things that he had to do, so we did not hang out afterward, but I got to go home and I completed my Ultimate Magic deck. And then I got to play some games with Joe before everyone got to his house for Tuesday nights, aka the new Monday nights, I must reiterate. And then Joe, Caleb, Benj, and I all went and played Spyco while Karina sat on the sidelines and gazed upon us, and it was spectacular, a good time, and super fun. And then finally, me, Joe, and Ben played some more Magic with our decks, Benj. And I lost a few times, but, I do feel like that was partially because I was targeted. However, I could not prove this claim. And then finally, everyone but Joe and Karina went over to CSU, and we played a revised CSU game where I, the one on rollerblades, was trying to get tagged, and they were the ones not on rollerblades, that had my location at all points in time. And I couldn't cross over or utilize the same path twice. So I was evading them at all points in time, or as long as possible. And the more I rode around, the less space I had to ride on. So I really enjoyed it. It was a really good time. I think they did too. And yeah, after that we got home. I got stretched by Grace briefly, who was quite apt at stretching, and then finally went to bed. And we'll conclude that the totality of this life of Nemo, and hopefully my dictation made it such that it was understood with ease and is not irritating those who have listened to it. But I suppose such things are outside my control, the opinions of the public, and therefore I will bid you all adieu with no further delay.